Hi everyone. In this video, I want to give you a short demonstration of how emotional freedom techniques or EFT tapping is performed. Now, if you don't know what EFT is or what that even means, then I have created another video that briefly explains what it is and how it works, but suffice it to say that it's a really powerful tool to help manage troublesome emotions like stress and anxiety, and even to release old emotional wounds and baggage that we've not been able to fully process. If you are interested, then I will put up a link to that video so that you can go check that out if you want to learn more. So before we get right into the basic procedure for EFT tapping, I do have a few important things that I want to tell you about so that you can get the most out of it. To begin with, you're going to want to identify a feeling that is bothering you or some kind of emotional issue that you have had a lot of trouble letting go of. This could be something as recent as today, or even some event that may have happened many years in the past that still upsets you when you think about it. Now, I don't recommend that you dive headfirst into the most painful or traumatic experiences of your life that you may or may not be aware of, because doing so could open a whole can of worms that you may not be equipped to handle if you're just doing this on your own. In cases like those, it's much better to work with a skilled and competent practitioner if you do suspect that you have such memories or heavy issues that you would like to work on. Okay, so once you've identified a feeling or a bothersome memory that you would like to work on, it helps to give it an intensity rating from 0 to 10, where 10 is like the absolute most intense, just completely unbearable level that it could be at. This is going to help you gauge how you feel after doing the tapping, which can also help the rational mind see the effect that this technique is actually having for you. And even if you're not exactly sure what number to give the issue, you can just guess, because usually the first number that comes to your mind is probably going to be close enough for you to work with. Now, one thing I will say is that if you can locate a specific place in your body where you feel the feeling most distinctly, then that will help you even more as you go through this. Certain feelings like stress or anxiety or even anger may seem kind of diffuse or kind of like spread out all over your body, but actually if you tune in a little more closely, you may notice that they are most prominent in certain areas of the body, or even that they have certain distinct qualities that you can become aware of. And if you are remembering a specific event that you want to work on, it can be very helpful to think about what aspects of that event stand out most in your memory or carry the most emotional charge. For example, if you got into a heated confrontation with a coworker, then perhaps it was the way that they looked at you, or maybe something that they said in particular and the tone of voice that they used to say it. These kinds of details are going to be very helpful as you start tapping, because in general, the more specific that you are about what you're tapping on, the better results that you're usually going to tend to get. So now with that said, let's get into the basic procedure. The first place that we normally start is here on this soft, fleshy part of our hand that is often called the karate chop point. Now, you can tap on either hand because it really doesn't make a difference, but you may, want to change sides as you go through it. That's perfectly fine. Now, as you tap on this part of your hand, you're going to say a setup statement to begin with that goes something like this, and I'm just using this as an example. Even though I have this anxiety in my chest, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. And you would repeat that 3 times. Now, I'm just using anxiety as an example, but you can insert any problem or issue that you want to work on into the beginning of that statement. Now, people often get confused about this setup statement, but let me explain it a little bit and hopefully clarify any misunderstanding you may have. The basic reason for doing this setup statement at the beginning of doing tapping is that it ensures that your energy is moving in the right direction, and so that basically you just receive the most benefit that you can get from the tapping. Now, the first part is an acknowledgement of the feeling or issue that you're experiencing, and then you always follow it up by a positive affirmational statement. Now, I've seen that a lot of people have some kind of a problem with saying, I love, accept, and forgive myself. But honestly, you can use any other affirmational statement just as long as it feels true for you. So for example, some other ones that I like to use are, I'm choosing to relax and feel safe now, or that I know I'm a good person anyway, or it can honestly be just about anything that you believe is true and that feels good for you to say. Positive, truthful, affirmative statements have a strengthening effect on the body's energy, hence why we say them here in the beginning, but they are actually not the main focus of the work that you are about to be doing. Again, they just set us up to get the most benefit out of the EFT that we're about to do. So once you have said this setup statement 3 times while tapping on that karate chop point, you're now going to move on to the other main acupressure points. Now I will demonstrate the basic sequence of points that you can tap on, and what you'll notice as I tap on each of these is that I'm going to say a short reminder phrase, which can even be just one word that reminds me of the problem. Now you don't have to get too fancy or creative with this, and it can just literally be anything that reminds you of the problem or that is related to the feelings or the memory that you are working on and that you have in mind. So let me first show you each of the points, and then I'll show you what it looks like using the reminder phrase as you tap on each of them. For all of these points, you can tap lightly a few times each. Usually 5 to 7 taps is enough unless you feel like doing more. And the point of this is not to cause yourself pain, but the tapping should definitely be firm enough that you feel something. So the first point is right here on the top of your head, along the midline of your skull. Now, you may or may not feel some kind of interesting or unusual sensations as you tap on all these various points, but even if you don't necessarily feel anything unusual, then you can still be sure that it's working. So now the next points are at the ends of your eyebrows, where your eyebrows basically meet the bridge of your nose. Now you can tap on either side or even both at once. So the next point is right here on the side of your eye, and you're going to be tapping right there on the bone. The next point is underneath your eye, again tapping on the bone that's right there below your eye. The next point is between your nose and upper lip, just tapping right there a few times. The next point is under your lower lip, like on your chin there, a few times. So now this next point is, so if you feel here, you kind of have this U-shaped notch at the top of your sternum. So you'll find the points of that notch, and then you just kind of go diagonally downward to either side. And there's just kind of this soft fleshy part right there. So you can actually kind of rub on it or massage it like I'm doing, or you can just tap right in there. It's under your collarbone. And now the final point that you're going to want to tap on is on your ribs, and it's a few inches below your armpit. So just right there on the ribs, just tapping a few times. And then once you've done that, you stop and you take a deep breath. And that is one full round of tapping through the basic acupressure points. Now there are other optional points that I do sometimes incorporate into my practice, but again, these are the most basic ones and they are very good for getting started. So now that you have seen where all of those points are, let me actually show you what it would look like to use the reminder phrase so that we are actually addressing the problem that we intend to work on. So I'll go back to the example with the setup statement that I did earlier, where I used this anxiety in my chest. So after I've tapped on the karate chop point and said that setup statement 3 times, I'll now start at the top of my head and I'll say, this anxiety in my chest, this anxiety in my chest, all this anxiety in my chest, feels hard to breathe, all this tension in my chest, all this anxiety in my chest. Good. And here again, after that rib point under the armpit, I would just stop and take a deep breath. And that is one complete round. So normally what you'll do at this point is you'll check back in with the issue, and you want to just pay attention to the intensity level at this point and notice how it may have shifted for you. For example, maybe this anxiety in my chest was a 7 before I started doing the tapping, but after that one round, maybe now I've got it down to a 4, which is great. That's definitely improvement. That's a good sign that something has happened and that my energy has started moving in a more positive direction. So at this point, you can start to tap for another round or two on the same exact issue, and it is often a good idea to do so to see how low you can get that intensity level. Now, many times, if you continue tapping on the same issue, but the intensity level does not seem to be going down, then there is probably some other aspect of this problem that you need to be working on. This is especially true with troublesome memories of past events that were not so pleasant to live through. Very often, we have to look at all of the various aspects of the memory that really make it so problematic for us, and we kind of have to systematically work through most of the significant ones until we find that the memory or the event really just doesn't bother us in the same way that it once did. Now, if you are persistent and really willing to explore what's bugging you, then you really can clear away a lot of stuck emotional energy and start feeling better almost right away. So now that you've seen how this is done, you can actually start doing EFT for yourself and seeing how it works for you. This is a great little tool that can be done very quickly and can be used almost any time of day when you are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or when faced with some challenging situation that is causing you distress. Now again, for the really big and awful stuff, it is definitely advised that you work with somebody who is trained and kind of has more advanced skills that can help you neutralize and handle very strong emotions, rather than just trying to go headlong into them yourself. But if you practice EFT routinely and do a little bit of it every day, you might be very surprised at how much more calm, centered, and balanced you just feel overall. And over time, this definitely builds emotional resilience and can help you stay more steady and calm, even in the face of very challenging situations that you may not have responded so well to in the past. Now, you may not have some huge breakthrough every time that you do tapping, but people very commonly report that they just feel more calm and less bothered about things after doing it. So I hope you'll give this a try for yourself and see what it can do for you. You may feel a little silly, but you will know right away how powerful and effective this tool can be for just helping you to feel more calm and less emotionally reactive as you go through life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Just to let you know, I myself am a certified EFT practitioner, so if you do want to learn more about working with me, please be sure to check out the link in the description of this video to find my personal webpage and to get more information there. Thank you again for watching this, and please be sure to give it a like if you found it helpful, and be sure to leave me a comment with any questions that you may have about EFT, and I'd be happy to answer them. Hope this helps. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.